Ready?
Yeah, I'm just asking, do I butcher your name or not? Is it Jim Sebastian Sharman? Sharman.
You don't need the Sebastian.
Okay. You don't need that.
You don't need it. No.
Jim Sharman.
Jim Sharman, like shaman.
Sharman. I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of this. We're back at it with another podcast. This time we're doing it in English. Hopefully you can see and hear. We have a lovely guest who doesn't need an introduction besides his name. Jim Sharman. Sharman.
I'm not an American tank.
That's a good one. We're going to use this one. Sorry to butcher your name. We're going to butcher a lot of things. Hopefully not your book. It's because it's precious and really lovely. You can show it to the hard copy as well. Yeah. So let's talk about breaking the ice first.
Yeah. Let's start with by not saying Sherman.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, you're gonna tease me with this one now, and I'm gonna hate myself. This is the first podcast where I just.
Yeah, it's okay. English podcast with Holder Maripoo.
Oh my god.
Take 3.
Yeah, lovely. So, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm very relaxed. It's a very relaxed environment. Two seemingly friendly Estonians, so I don't think I'm going to be murdered in my sleep. So it's all good.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. My first question as an icebreaker would be it's the most common question Estonians can ask is like, why Estonia?
Why Estonia? Well, the short version is I came for an environmental conference in 2018 and basically never left because I just fell in love with the place. The longer version is I actually have a former colleague who moved here around about 2000 and he was raving about it, and then he was inviting me to this environmental movement that started here called Teimara. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Teimara.
My God, yeah. Usually everyone goes, what? Teimara? Yeah, no, Teimara. No, you mean Teimara. I'm saying Teimara. No, you're saying Teimara. And it sounds exactly the same.
It sounds like Tamara.
Welcome to the podcast with Tamara. Where is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I joined this Teimara when it became a global event. We had the World Cleanup Day in 2018, and I just basically stayed because I loved it so much.
Wow.
Simple as that.
Well, yeah, it's surprising, but at the same time, it's inspiring because I know the movement, but I haven't joined it. I would love to ask you, why did you?
They're addressing a very good point that the world is essentially drowning in mismanaged waste. But over the years, I've come to realize that it's being produced at a rate far quicker than any of us can manage it. So it's a people-led movement, but it needs to be an organization and a state-led solution.
Mm.
So it's not going to be solved at the people level. You need at least 5% of any society to create a lasting behavioral change. And in 6 years, we've only reached 1% of the world. So there's a long way to go. So it's not the people themselves who are going to go out and clean up, because that's not the solution. The solution is stop the shit being produced in the first place. Anyway, that's the politics bit over.
Yeah.
But what's like the worst category of things that are produced?
Single-use plastic easily.
Okay.
And cigarette butts.
So it's like percentage-wise pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, last Friday, or Friday before last rather. Friday the 20th, my former colleague and I walked around Baltiam in Tallinn. And then we went around the old town as well, just a very short route. The 15-minute city, you don't get anywhere in 15 minutes. Well, we spent about 4 hours picking stuff up around town. And then we went back to Baltiam, having collected at least 1,000 cigarette butts and put them in the bin. And they went back to the place that we'd cleaned just hours before and found 300 more cigarette butts. And yesterday I was looking around, I was going, God, did I clean this place a week ago? Yeah. So yeah, it's great awareness raising, but behavior needs to change. So, I joined this movement because I believe that it's possible I still believe it's possible for humans to change their behavior before we completely trash, literally, the planet. But it's not the planet that's a danger, it's us.
Yeah, but where did it came from? I mean, like the urge to do this. to like it had to start from somewhere before Estonia.
Yes, before that I was living in Slovenia. I was in a relationship with a musician, and we're trying to help her get her music career going. And eventually, we went our separate ways because it was clear we were on different paths. And I'd been wanting to do something a bit more altruistic for many years, because before that I was working in Sweden at a company that produced hydraulic cylinders for machinery that was essentially destroying the planet, whether it be cranes for construction or whether it be diggers that literally destroying the earth. And I saw this documentary called The 11th Hour, I think it was called, narrated by Leonardo DiCaprio from about maybe 15 years ago. That was a very, very powerful documentary that said to me, like, I'm part of the problem. So I spent a few years looking for, well, how can I become part of the solution instead of being part of the problem? So that's where the urge came from.
And how can you join the movement? I would like to
just go to their website. Any day's World Cleanup Day. Every day's World Cleanup Day.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've always thought it was like an annual thing.
It is an annual day where everybody comes up to do things in high profile. But what I would say to people is, don't be like a typical politician. Have a nice photo opportunity. Put a cool video in it on TikTok or whatever. Every day, change your behavior. So go to the website and learn why it's important to change behavior for a start, and then be the change that you want to see, rather than either expect anybody else to do it or think that coming out one day a year is going to solve the problem, because it's not. Simple.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Okay, I'm interested in one thing.
Yeah.
To produce a behavior change for the masses is pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the possible steps to take in order to influence people to change their behaviors?
And the very first thing to do is to raise awareness about why the behavior needs to change.
Sure.
Because it's often called trash blindness. It's a phenomenon which was talked about. Actually, the first I'm aware that it was spoken about was in 2007, 2008, when people like Thomas Trapido and Rainer Nalvac first had the idea to put this thing together. And there's a few other people. It's not just those two guys. But those are the two names that I remember right now. Said, okay, so they're walking around nature, and it had become habitual for people to go out of the city and dump their trash in Viru Raba, for example. And so all these bog walks and nature walks and forests were just filled with trash, and everybody become blind to it. So the first step is to let people see what is the issue, and then it's a question of choice. It really is that simple.
Sure. Me and my girlfriend, we often go on walks around the bogs and the river. So yeah, there's a lot of trash everywhere. And still there is. So yeah. I'm in complete support, but it's going to be a difficult job for Estonians, I think.
Well, Estonia started it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sure, but if I look at the population right now, sometimes it's difficult to envision. Change happens, of course, but
but it's a worldwide problem. I think
yeah.
It's not even only Estonians. It's really a really hard problem for everyone to start with.
Well, for example, I think the highest ever proportion of a country to turn out was, I believe, 14% of Slovenia in 2012, and in 2018. I was walking around there with this World Cleanup Day app on my phone, testing the app for the developers by putting trash points in. But I couldn't find much trash. I couldn't find. Of course, you find cigarettes here and there or sweet wrappers here and there. I couldn't find big piles of mismanaged waste because the societal behaviour had shifted to the point where consciousness was raised to the point where it just wasn't there. And after 2008 in Estonia, same thing. So you might walk around the bog, you might find the odd coffee cup or chips wrapper or something, but you don't see huge piles of mismanaged waste so much anymore because it has reached enough people to create that behavior. It just hasn't happened globally. That's the issue, Helmut.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I wanted to make a reference. I remember when I was a small child, it wasn't even, it's not waste related, but we had a lot of stray dogs and cats everywhere as well. And that's a tendency, or that's a habit of people as well. Or like, how can I describe this? It's nowadays you don't see that anymore. I don't know what I wanted to address with this.
I mean, change happens. I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant with that.
Change happens only when you make it happen.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So I mean, like, what I meant with that is that
It's possible.
it is possible, yeah, because I remember that was a common problem, especially for kids. A lot of stray dogs here and there. You were afraid to go somewhere. Nowadays, you hardly see any. But
This actually is interesting. I mean, maybe we can bring this round to a close on this particular topic.
Yeah.
This is probably not what we came to talk about,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
still interesting.
yeah,
That you say change is possible, and we're talking about change. But the one thing I would add to that is change is possible. Lasting change is harder, and that's the real issue. So I came here because I found a project which I believed could influence the world sufficiently to create lasting change.
yeah.
And I still believe that lasting change is possible, but it takes the massive will, firstly, of people, secondly, of people in charge of production, and thirdly, people in charge of policy. And people who want to go and clean the trash up are not the solution. People who put in policy and people who are responsible for accountability of enforcing policy on manufacturers who are creating the waste in the first place. So, yeah, I still believe lasting change is possible. It's just getting harder and we're running out of time.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about other topics.
Because that's why I originally came here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was asking you. So,
Segue.
yeah, I know. You're making it really, really, I would say uncomfortable for me. I don't know. I've never been in this situation before, so I'm opening myself up doing this
Dive
like
into
this.
the uncomfortableness.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Welcome to your comfort zone.
Yeah, but that's why I would like to go towards your book straight away, because
Okay.
this your book has a lot of particular details in there that move me in that sense, that actually what I'm doing here, opening up and looking towards fear, is exactly the same thing your book is talking about in a way. So we're talking about the book Inspire. As it seems, it's your first book.
Yep.
What made you write the book? What made you make the book?
There's an old saying that there's at least one book in everybody. And I had picked up this desktop diary some years back when I was working on a very difficult project in India, where we were building the customer response center for what's since become the world's biggest telecoms company. So you can imagine that was like very tough days. It's very difficult to work in that environment. But I was in a team of consultants who put that project together. And this desktop diary featured pictures of Indian nature, and you just flip it over each day. And each day there was a motivational quote. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So, a few years ago, I took that desktop diary and said, right, I'm going to write a motivational reflection, 400 words or so, motivational text based on each of these quotes. And then started mixing a few of my own in. And I thought, why am I relying on other people's quotes to do reflections on when I should be writing my own? So I thought, right, what's the challenge now? The challenge now is not to do 365 of my own, because that's just immense. So I condensed it down to 31. I already had about 20 or so from the prior project.
Mm-hmm.
But now by doing my own book and giving myself freedom to not restrict myself to 400 words. I restrict myself to 2 or 3 pages. And all of these quotations are based on quotations that I'm going to come up with that I hope will also motivate people in similar ways, because they motivate me. And so now I have 31 reflections on quotations that I've put together myself, rather than relying on other people's words. And I'm also using images that I've taken mainly of Estonian nature, frankly, or even like the city, old town, or just the street where I used to live. Anything that inspires me visually as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I'm just asking. So the quotes, you made them in different places all over the world. the quotes themselves. They weren't made here. They didn't come to you in Estonia, all of them.
Well, yeah, I was living here when they all came to me.
Okay, fair.
They're based on life experience.
Yeah, okay. So, I just was confused because the pictures were all made in Estonia. So
some of them in New York, actually.
Yeah.
Some of them. I was there in New York a year ago for the World Cleanup Day project last year. A couple of them in New York. Most of them are Estonia. One or two are Sweden.
And what is your main purpose of this book? Like, what would you like to achieve with this?
I've already achieved it.
No, it's interesting.
Actually, the main aim was just to step out of my comfort zone, put my fear behind me, and JFDI, just fucking do it, because you don't grow your comfort zone if you don't stretch, and when you stretch, I think of a comfort zone like a balloon. You put some air into a balloon, it's that big. Right, and then you can tie a knot in it, but it'll never get bigger unless you untie that knot.
It gets even smaller.
Well, yeah, over time it shrinks. Like a lot of things shrink with age. So the only way you're going to grow that is to untie that knot and put some more air into it. And so that's my comfort zone. And writing my own book, daring to be seen that much. It hasn't got global audience, but just to be seen, to do it, is the achievement in
but
itself.
Talking about the audience, I've actually written it down that it is actually a bestseller in 4 categories on Amazon.
Yes, that shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah, self-help, then biography, true accounts, business skills, and inspirational spirituality.
Yes.
So that's really immense.
Yeah, that was very pleasing to see.
So it's getting somewhere. So. As you said, I would like to ask you, what were you afraid of?
Well, I think there are a few things that obviously immediately spring to mind, like humiliation or ridicule. I remembered one of my favorite songs when I was a boy. I was like 11 or 12. It was Prince. It was Adam and the Ants. Prince Charming. Ridicule is nothing to be scared of. So I guess I was afraid of being called a fraud, or being accused of plagiarism or anything. There is no plagiarism. I've tried to put original thought into everything. I was afraid of people saying, "Oh, that's a bag of shit. You're talking nonsense."
Mm-hmm. So basically, it reflects to me as being insecure. Like to me, it sounds like this.
It's slightly different. It's imposter syndrome.
That's the one. I talk about it actually.
That's
one of the chapters is about imposter syndrome and overcoming it.
Yeah, sure. Insecurity and imposter syndrome have overlap, but they are slightly different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's interesting.
You may not be insecure, but you can feel like I'm not really a musician. Okay, I made a good song, but I'm not really a musician. I don't feel like a musician. It might not be insecurity completely, but they have like connections somewhat.
Yeah. Let me throw it back at him.
Yeah.
When you release your album, will there be a little bit in your head that says, "Oh my God, what if people think this is shit and say that he's not a musician," when you clearly are?
Well, I never thought about that.
Well,
because the fear that I have with my releases is more me related. If it makes sense, it's as I say, you can be your best friend and you can be your worst enemy, and that's my problem.
Growing older now, I see like with imposter syndrome, I see this like weird thing. Once you make an album or write a book, then you somewhat change in perception, because then you have achieved something or done something. Then you sort of like are a writer or you are an artist, whereas you might have been before, but once that release has happened, like the perception of you changes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's well said.
But it is so.
Yeah,
you might make great music, but if you haven't released anything, then you don't have that sort of aura or something. We like we romanticize the artist or the writer so much that we have like we create imposter syndrome before like trying to achieve making great music or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting because I overcome it when my main problem with releasing things was that it doesn't sound like my idols. And I don't mean melodic wise or something, but I mean like the mastering and mixing. So it doesn't sound like that. So how can I be one of them? So that was my main reason until I got a good mastering engineer and a mixing engineer, and he ensured me that what I'm doing is perfectly fine.
Yeah, because what you're actually trying to do is to produce something that sounds like you.
Yeah, exactly. But
and there are often people who get stuck in that moment of like trying to do something for the sake of doing it, or not being able to get in touch with who they really are inside themselves. And that's why I became a breakthrough coach, is to work with people to say to them, okay, the you that you want to be is inside you. It's nowhere else. You don't stop looking for over there. Stop looking for it in that producer or that musician or that actor or that author. Yeah, everything that you need to be is within you. It might not be within reach yet because you have some learning to do, but it's there. So what you're actually trying to do is to produce music that sounds like you.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Reflects the inner you.
Yeah, that's true. That's really immense. I mean, we all should take coaching advice from you. I mean, it's good. It's really lovely to hear, and I mean, it calms you down, and I really appreciate that. I really like that, and I hope the book reflects that as well. I sadly haven't read it yet, but I've read the quotations on it, and we've talked about it together, and there are many quotes in there that reflect, and it seems me with books is really hard. It's to see me read something is a rare thing, and then this book actually inspires me, ironically the name as well, to read it. But the main reason is you, because you truly reflect everything that I've read already through you talking.
Be good, because it's supposed to, it's actually it's not meant to be some kind of workbook or manual for life. It's meant to be more like a mirror, and it's called Inspire. Starts with I, and the like you take any kind of take love. We're going to get really esoteric straight away. Take love. If you want to be loved, learn to love yourself first. Because if you don't love yourself first, how can you expect others to love you? You can replace love with trust. You could replace trust with respect. You know, if you want people to respect you, then act respectfully. If you want people to trust you, then be trustworthy. If you want to be loved, then start with yourself. Because if you want to inspire others, then start with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this gives me a thought where I would like to ask you. Obviously, a person has to learn all of this, like to be his or her best friend. In that sense, how did you get there mentally?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That is a very good question. Well, you say mentally, it was more of a spiritual journey than a mental one. If I could say the mental one, so like being in your head, that comes from mainly 25 years experience of being a coach in the private sector and the corporate world. Sort of training people in interpersonal advanced communication skills, or business development skills, or sales skills, or presentation skills, all that stuff about having, setting up a training room, doing train the trainer, having neuro-linguistic programming based techniques to teach people about, actually I don't like the word teach, I don't teach anything, pass on skills about advanced listening or advanced rapport building skills, or conflict de-escalation in a service environment. All that stuff is like, it's very powerful. But it was the real spiritual awakening, and that awakening actually started when I moved here, and I started doing a few different types of courses. Actually, no, I'll backtrack. The real journey started when I discovered psychosynthesis leadership coaching. So psychosynthesis is a holistic method of coaching where you deal with the entire person. So you deal with the inner I, you deal with the inner will. You deal with the higher self. You deal with the ego. So you deal with all the sub-personalities that are within each of us. So I discovered that, which is a much deeper, and it's still intellectual, but it starts to cross over into the psychospiritual. And then I went into a real deep dive in the transpersonal and the spiritual element through a lady called Catchy, who was half, what was she? I think she was half Mexican, half Greek, half Peruvian. That was it. And she was doing some very deep work on intimacy out of her workshop in Tampere in Finland. She built an audience, she built a program, and it was shadow work essentially.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Are you familiar with this?
My girlfriend would know a lot more about this. I have like basic knowledge. Very basic.
If you mention the name Taki Antijoni,
not really. I don't know. I don't know this person.
Well, sadly, she passed away last year.
Okay, but those kind of like workshops or events or ceremonies, whatever you call them, those would be interesting, especially in shadow work.
Yeah, some of the opening gateways to that, things like maybe a really good helirenak would be a good way in, like a sound bath or a sound journey to kind of calm the central nervous system to be more receptive to the kind of subjects that shadow work deals with. And shadow work deals with a lot of your inner personality, your inner wounds that can either be very recent or can go all the way back to early childhood. So you start digging into the dark and light masculinity and the dark and light femininity, looking at the various archetypes and modalities within those, and stripping away things like scarcity mindset, stripping away the fear of not being appreciated or the fear of not being good enough. So I'm not good enough to write a book. I'm not good enough to talk on a podcast. I'm not good enough to release an album. All that shit, strip it away. And what you're left with is a sense of a calm assurance. It can be quite zen about it, but you do get to that space of inner peace. Because behind all our emotional reactions are stories. And we tell ourselves these stories all our lives. And these stories dictate how we respond to the situations around us. But when we relearn, and that's what this is all about, when we relearn our personal story and we can reframe it in a way that supports us, then our behaviors change, our responses change. And then we find that behind those stories are just the emotions. And the emotions are basic emotions, like 3 or 4 or 5 very basic human emotions. And there's only like 6 basic human needs. You put those together and you go, right, I see it now. And you can clear a lot of shit out very quickly. And behind that is the peace, and that's where the healing happens.
That's really interesting. Do you, I have a question regarding this, do you offer like this knowledge that you're giving to us right now as a service as well?
I'm absolutely not a shadow work teacher, and I never will be. What I do is to, I've embraced all that. I've embraced the shadow work learnings. I've embraced the learning that I've taken from the Holistic Institutes in Tallinn. I've also learned Reiki, so I'm now a Reiki master. And I've done mindfulness training, and I've done psychosynthesis leadership coaching. I've done neuro-linguistic program. I put all that together. So that's my toolbox as a coach. Mm-hmm. So the wider answer to your question is yes. But do I do specific shadow work teaching? No. I introduce that into coaching. And one thing that's absolutely clear to people is that what I do is not therapy. It can be therapeutic. It can make you feel better, but I'm not a therapist.
But let's say, for instance, me or a viewer of our podcast would love to meet with you and experience that. Mm-hmm. How is it possible? How does it work?
Well, I have my own website, jimsharman.com, and on that I talk about the breakthrough coaching that I do. It's mainly aimed at leaders, but leadership skills themselves can be very broad brush. So exactly. You don't have to be an executive leader or a C-suite leader or a CEO in a big company or a multinational or even a local startup. Leadership can mean many things. So if you're struggling in a relationship where you have various dynamics around you that aren't working, I can help you work that out. Or I could work with you to improve the leadership of your local football team, or any kind of interaction where you need to be dealing with others. and you're having some kind of relationship or problem solving or relationship struggles, I can do that. Or it can go all the way through to how can you manage your team in your business. So yeah,
that's just really interesting. I mean, I would love
my website.
Yeah, we'll put it over here. We'll like hold it this way. We're going to put it much larger than this small TV, so everyone can read it. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting that I would still love to ask you, like, the sessions themselves. Are they like live? Do you meet with the person, or are they online, or how does it look?
Face-to-face coaching in Estonia. It's difficult. I think there's a fear element. But one of the first things I always do, regardless of whether it's face-to-face or online, is to ensure that the person feels comfortable and safe. I mean, we could just do a quick discovery call, for example, so that people can feel reassured that I know what I'm talking about. Or I can say, right, I understand where you're at, what I would recommend. And I have done this before, actually. An interesting thing about a coach like myself, it's the same as an NGO. The purpose of my business is to make myself unnecessary to you.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting point of view.
Yeah, the purpose of any NGO is to make itself unnecessary, unneeded. Right. So my job, I see my job as to make myself unnecessary to you as quickly as possible and as supportive a way as possible. So we can either do that face to face, we can do it online. Sessions can be as short or as long as you're comfortable with. It depends on what the situation is that we're discussing. I mean, from a very generic level, I might say, okay, well, I can see us making a breakthrough on this topic in maybe 6 sessions. And I would suggest that these sessions are maybe you put aside 75 minutes of time. We can do it by the hour, or I can offer a package.
So it really depends on the person. Really,
it depends on the person, but it also depends on the situation. And it's the situation that I'm more interested in looking at. As well as what's behind the person who's bringing you that situation.
Yeah, but are you then searching for certain situations that you like more or prefer more?
I'm open to everything. Because if it's something that I know I can't deal with, then I would make a recommendation of where to go with it. And again, like I said earlier, I've done that before. I've had a situation where I know I'm dealing with something that is not within my skill set. So I've made the recommendation, okay, I've got you to this point. In order for you to get to this point, I recommend you go to this type of qualified therapist. So sometimes a more, what's the word here? Not clinical, but I've forgotten the word. I've forgotten my own language.
It's all good. It makes us comfortable.
There you go. Well, I've lived abroad so much. Actually, I lived in Sweden for 8 years, and when I went back to the UK afterwards, I found myself forgetting the English words for things.
Really?
A more qualified approach might be required in some things.
I understand that.
Yeah, so I don't look for anything specific to work with. I do thrive in an environment where I'm dealing with people who are struggling with self-confidence, because I've struggled with self-confidence a lot myself. So anything where I can go back into and tap into a rich well of personal experience is good, because what I've found, whatever the subject is and whoever the person is, the more I can relate their experience to my own, I can tap into it, and then I can use things like not self-deprecation. Self-deprecation can work. But referencing one's own experience can be a very powerfully therapeutic tool for someone else to see. So they think, I'm not the only one who's thought this, or I'm not the only one who's been there. I'm not the only one who's had that reaction. And everyone is different, but situations can be very relatable.
Really interesting. When was the time where you fought your insecurities, or like when you found out that I'm healed?
Well, there have been various points of breakthrough, and I think that's an important thing to say. Earlier this year this year's been a very tumultuous year. This is January, early February were particularly bad in terms of stress, or in terms of feeling uncomfortable about things. But I would say this summer I had a really big breakthrough, which allowed me to create enough space and enough peace within myself to achieve an ambition. Writing that book was an ambition. It was on my bucket list. But in the space of 1 month, I was able to put together enough content for a reasonably decent website, which was designed and put together by my wife, Juliet. Hi. And she also put the book together. So I released a book and we got married all within the space of 1 month. So August was a massive breakthrough moment.
Crazy.
Of realizing I deserve this. I've worked hard for this.
You really do.
And it's okay to be happy. It's okay to feel loved. It's okay to surrender and accept support from another human being. I don't have to be self-sufficient all the time. I don't have to depend on myself all the time. Sometimes I can just go, and feel held by somebody else. And that's a very vulnerable space to be in, but it's very enriching.
Yeah, true. So how much, how can I ask this question properly?
Probably in English.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll try my best. I mean, like, as I mentioned before, I mean, you're such a comfortable person to talk with, but at the same time you make me so uncomfortable. That's so interesting, but it's a good thing. It's really an interesting thing, and
it's working, Hans.
it's amusing me as well at the same time. So what I wanted to ask you about the book was, when you released it, did it give you some sort of a momentum now that you feel like that you can achieve more?
Okay, I will answer that question in about 10 seconds, but I want to pick up on something you've just said about how I make you feel uncomfortable.
I make myself uncomfortable.
Firstly, yes, you make yourself uncomfortable, and the real challenge there is to look into why. But in order to maybe make you feel a bit more comfortable, I can tell you right now that inside myself, I've got this little knot here, and I can feel this little wobble here, and it's not just my fat. But see, like self-deprecatory jokes like those and self-disclosure like what I'm doing now could be very powerful tools to help people overcome their own sense of discomfort.
Exactly.
I'm very nervous right now.
I get that.
Yeah, I'm very nervous.
But it's your mother's tongue with what you're talking.
But that's not this. It's the situation that's making me feel nervous.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't know this guy over here. And he's taller than I am, and he's a bit scary.
Verbal. He's a really gentle guy.
And I don't know which questions you're going to come up with.
Yeah.
So
me neither.
So clearly, I'm nervous.
It's all my fault.
Yeah. Maybe Hans should ask a few questions here and there as well, because I do have many now, but I don't know how to ask them. I'll work my way.
So in answer to your original question, momentum. Yes, it does. It does give me momentum. It gives me inspiration to prepare material for a second book. And I already know what the subject matter of the second book would be. I've already got the title. I've already got the strapline. I already know the length. I already know the format. Because yes, this has given me momentum. I'm like, God, I can do more. It's given me confidence. More confidence I never expected to have, ever. I didn't expect to write one book, let alone two. And the even more surprising thing is, each night before I fall asleep, I keep getting flashes of inspiration. I've even got in mind a third one. I'm not quite that far into the...
Yeah.
So it's given me momentum to dare to put myself forward.
Yeah, because the balloon is much bigger now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that completely. Me with my projects as well. At first, when I start with new things, I feel scared. But later on, I just laugh about them because it's like, oh, I can do that now. It's when you start with it and you finish it, it comes easy. It later on comes easy.
So how would you feel if I said I'm really looking forward to hearing your first album?
How did I feel?
How will you feel when I say I'm looking forward to it?
Really great.
Okay, what if I said to you instead, I'm looking forward to hearing your second?
Well, I'm actually making one.
Hey!
Actually, I'm working on that right now. So yeah, actually, that's interesting. With you, it's I can't say it's different, but it is different in a way. It's, I mean, we met previously before this podcast, and I mean...
Do you know how we met, by the way?
I don't know.
That's a great story.
Oh, yeah. Before I start with that, I'll turn on the camera just for a second. And but I mean, maybe Jim can start with how we met, just briefly, because I need to put the camera on. Just sorry.
My wife's late husband was a music producer, and there was a lot of musical equipment lying around after his passing, which she wanted to sell so that other people can do it. I mean, there's no point that stuff lying around collecting dust. Only vacuum cleaners collect dust. It's a really, really bad joke. So the point was that this equipment is meant to be used. So firstly, I tapped into a couple of people in the music community I knew in Tallinn, but either was the wrong kind of equipment or it was frankly too expensive because it's really high-end stuff. So I bit the bullet and put it on Marketplace. And this guy saw the Akai Fire, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He saw the Akai Fire for sale. And I've never seen anyone more enthusiastic to buy something online. It's basically screaming, "I want this!"
Yeah. I can continue. I can because it's interesting. I was in the search for an Akai Fire controller. If no one knows what it is, it controls FL Studio, so you can perform with it. Couldn't find any on the used market in Estonia. Searched for it for a week, didn't find any. Then one listing came up in Okidoki. It was in Narva. The person who was selling it didn't know a word in Estonian. So I contacted her via email. She spoke or writ gibberish. So basically like half Estonian, half Russian. Didn't even understand the sentences. Gave her a call, and she thought that I was like phone seller, like someone who sells shit through a phone. So that went that way because I was like, nah, not gonna go, not gonna do it. Waited or searched for another 2 or 3 days, couldn't find anything. Started to go to sleep, took my phone, opened Marketplace. Ooh, what did I find? I found Akai Fire controller, and it was actually in a really good condition, and it was a fair price. There was even a description why it was priced like this. I got it. I wrote to him. He wrote back to me straight ahead. There was a connection. Really loved how straightforward he was and how open he was about it. I really like that. We arranged a meeting. I drove straight to Tallinn. He was there to show me the unit. He brought me and my girlfriend to his place. We had a lovely conversation there. He showed me the controller, and then from there on, we found out. Actually, while I was driving, I sent him a few things here and there, and he found out that we had a lot in common music-wise. Like he liked my music. I sent him a few tracks of mine. I sent him a few Instagram or TikTok live-ish videos. He liked them, and then everything else is history, basically. I mean, it's really immense. It was so surprising to find someone who was so invested into music, because obviously he's really invested into music as well. Let's look at his shirt.
Carbon-based life forms. Big shout out to Daniel and Johannes.
He actually has met them as well. So
yeah, they're good friends.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm talking about. To be as a underground master musician, as my friend Mike tells he is, and I'm gonna use this because this is a good description. To hear that you're so close to such famous musicians, in that sense, obviously I admire them and I admire a lot of musicians, but it was so clear to me that there's just one person between me and musicians that have established themselves and that are comfortable with what they are doing, and it really inspired me, and it actually inspired me that much that I wanted you here in our podcast, and here we are. Long story short, we're doing a podcast now.
The funny thing is, he inspires me as well.
That's lovely to hear.
His energy that came through that music, and his vibrancy, and Elisa, the two of them being in our place was enriching. And I need more people like that in my life.
Yeah, I felt the same. That's the weirdest part about it. It was like, wow, where are we? Wow, what's going on? I was like kind of it's not the right word, starstruck, but in a different way. I was like struck by lighting or something. It was really good energy. I really loved it. Took that energy with me at home and continued on thinking positively, because it just gave me so much. And I think the book is giving as much. So basically, I would love to talk about the book again a little bit. One of the main questions I would have as a creator is, how hard is it to make a book?
That's a really good question. I mean, I want to say not as hard as you might think, but I also want to say, God, it's like giving birth. It's painful. It's scary. I wasn't sure I could firstly come up with, because I was trying to come up with a magic number, 365, way too many. 99, too cliched. 47, very Star Trek. 42, very Hitchhiker's Guide. 10, too few. So what's the right balance? And I just hit on 31. So it's very hard to write a book if you don't feel inspired to, for a start. But once I was inspired to, and once I struck on a formula, Juliet did a lot actually to encourage me. She was saying, because she's also a best-selling author. So I was looking at her material, and I was remembering it's okay to express myself as me. What I needed to, the hardest thing for me to do was to stay on topic, because of what I didn't want to do was to write too much so that it flows into material I wanted to use in that chapter over there. So the hardest part for me was separation of thoughts based around specific concepts. I didn't want to talk about concept B when I knew I had that in concept A. So there was a lot of rewriting going on.
So much similarities between me creating music. Yeah. I get it completely. There are certain things that you want to put on another project or another track or another segment, but it's too interesting. It's so, you like it so much that you would love to put it here, but then you have to just stay on it, on the tracks, and then just like say to yourself like, nah, this will come. It will come. Yeah. So I just completely get it. It's really interesting. Yeah. Keep on going. Sorry.
Well, I think I'm talking there about writer's block, and one of the chapters actually talks about inspiration itself. I think say something like, many people say that inspiration just comes to me. I don't believe that. I think you have to work hard at it.
True. You talked about it's really hard to write a book while not being inspired. Mm-hmm. I would like to ask you a question. When I create music, the 99% or 99 times I usually don't feel inspired first. I make myself inspire myself while doing it. Does that apply to you as well?
Well, I have to remind myself of what the goal is. So I go back to previous training, and one of the things I'll go back to is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he says, and I quote, start with the end in mind. So once you've got the end in mind, that's your anchor point. That's your lighthouse. That's the thing that guides you, no matter how high the waves are, no matter how much fog there is in front of you. When there's fog, you can hear the horn from the lighthouse. When there's no fog and you're far away and you feel like you're a million miles away from your objective, you can see the light, you can head towards it. There's always something, as long as you've got something to anchor your objective around, then you'll always come back to it. And if you have the end in mind, or start with the end in mind, if you always keep that end in mind, then it reminds you why you're doing it.
That's interesting.
I work sort of differently. I mean, I also have to have the end in mind, but I have to focus on the next, first steps or the next steps. It's like a candy trail going to the cookie house. I have to like focus on the one candy, the next candy, and the third candy. If I focus on the candy house, I will never get there.
That's interesting. I would like to add that I always change my ending. Like if there's an ending, I finish this, and then I take another ending in the same project. If that makes sense, I take it like piece by piece.
Yeah, sort of. I have to take it piece by piece too, because if there's like a single release, and if before I even start the song, I mean, I cannot be thinking about the video, the cover arts. If I focus on everything on a whole, I will go insane.
Well, what's the end goal?
I mean, I get where we're going with this. Of course, to release music video, make the covers and everything.
And then you work backwards from there.
Yeah, sure.
And everything else is the milestone.
Yes, sure.
Everything else is a step on the way.
Sure.
But what you will always end up doing, even if it's not consciously, is focusing on what the end goal is, reminding yourself what's your purpose.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So what I don't mean to say is that you can't ignore all the little steps along the way, but it's like if I'm stuck, that's the point. Whenever I'm stuck, whenever I'm feeling I'm not worth this, whenever I'm thinking I'm not good enough to do this, whenever I'm thinking I've run out of inspiration, I remind myself, what's my end goal? Do I want to go there? I'll draw an analogy.
Okay,
do it.
I'll draw an analogy.
Do it.
Okay, on one of the shadow work courses or shadow work based courses on intimacy reminds us guys that when we're in intimate relations, the thing that we think is the end isn't the goal. The goal is connection. The goal is intimacy. And how you get there, the steps that you take along the way, can be as enjoyable as you want to make them. But that thing that you think is the end isn't the end.
Actually, yeah, I've never thought of it like this, but at the same time, I've never thought of it like this. If you know what I mean. It's I don't like, but I don't know. For me, it's always been please the woman, the first. Like that's why I never think about it like that.
I'm different. That thought resonates with me, but I haven't articulated it in any way. I get it completely. Yeah,
I get it as well. I do. I mean, just that. I mean, I think differently. It's always been please the other person first, and then think about everything else.
I get you. But with intimacy, I mean, I go from extremes. If I love a person, then connection is first. It's like the main thing. It's not about sex per se.
Yeah.
But it's about the connection.
It is. Yeah, always it is. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, of course. I value the same thing as you, which is pleasing the partner.
But I didn't mean even in like obviously one way is sexually, but I mean like mentally and like the whole experience.
I mean, intimacy.
So Jim is just quiet then, like talking. He's surprised that we as Estonians are so open about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just like dropping grenades sometimes and watching the mayhem ensue. But the question that's itching in my mind is. And I don't want to. I'm not going to turn this into a coaching session because I'm not getting paid. I'm joking. The thing that really that I want to pick up on there is why is it important to you to please in whatever way it is? To please someone else before yourself. Why do you put that person before? Why do you place their needs in front of your own?
I get that because I believe that the other person is doing the same, so it's evening it out. I feel that when both sides are sincere and they try to build a bridge or walk towards the other, then that's the way to go. When obviously I'm going to do that if I see that when I feel that the person is doing the same.
Do you have a reality check?
What do you mean?
Do you ever check in with them and communicate that is your assumption correct?
Yeah, of course. Okay, I talk about those things all the time. I'm pretty open about those things, and I always want to like reinvest into it and the rethink, like you said, in a way that you blow air into the balloon. I always try to do these things with different scenarios. Is it love life? Is it personal?
Because this whole it's not a formula, but this whole mindset can be related to pretty much anything that we do in life. It doesn't have to be about the intimacy side.
Yeah, exactly.
So why do we put the needs of others first in our work? Why do we put the needs of other people in the office? Why do we put the needs of other people on our project? Why would we put somebody else before our own need?
And
sometimes you need to do that, but other times it's unhealthy to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I would say why I am doing this, or what that's my like way of going is like synergy.
Mm-hmm. So long as a synergy, then maybe that is working, as long as it's open and discussed and everybody's aware of.
Of course.
But when we assume, or when we continue placing other people forwards, and then you're kind of verging into martyr territory, and that's when you burn out.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Sure. The same point I have raised to Kelder in one occasion. I mean, sometimes there are people around us who aren't like as hardworking or as deserving of our attention as like.
I give it towards the other.
I
know that.
And I've like tried to tell you that you maybe like need to reevaluate those things sometimes, and like
I get
maybe
that.
move a
like
little bit different
session, but I love that. I would love to, oh, come on, this gives me a thought that we're gonna bring you back many occasions. You actually do. We're gonna bring you back many occasions if you want to, if you're up to that. We can even come to Tallinn if the commute is too much for you. We should do these kind of like open therapy sessions. Like I'm not in that sense that we're gonna change anyone or something like that, but we're just openly talking about those things. It's actually, I feel energized right now.
Because I was worse off than you. If you remember, in the context of like people pleasing, I was worse off than you.
Yeah, true. That's true.
Because I have a different perspective on it.
Because I I do select and choose which one.
I know. I umbrella everything. Like everyone got pleased.
I get it.
It's very easy for us to yo-yo between the two positions, and what we're looking for is a steady line, not a flat line, but there's just ride this curve between sometimes it's healthy to do this, sometimes it's healthier to do that, and it's navigating our way through what are the most important needs to be met. Firstly, that's the starting point. Is it their need or is it mine? So am I being a martyr at this point, or am I being a selfish beep?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to be aware of where you are on that curve. And I've learned, I'm still learning, and we learn every single day as long as we're open to it. We learn every single day. Where am I investing my energy? Who are the people around me? Are they energy vampires, or are they fueling?
Mm-hmm.
I always want to surround myself with people who fuel and encourage and inspire me, whoever they are, regardless of their age, regardless of I don't give a damn where they're from, how old they are, what their name is, what color hair they got, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It could be from Saturn. I don't care, as long as they're inspiring.
It's true. That's the same way with me.
And many of the people that I've coached, I probably might not have developed personal friendships with them if I'd have met them in a pub or met them talking in the park or at a gig or whatever. But I can see that they have a willingness to change, and they're struggling with something, and they want to become better people. And I'm inspired to work with them for that reason.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Exactly. But you can take this point of view and put it into the intimacy thing, as we spoke about previously as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you see that the other person is willing, or the other person wants, or vice versa.
And I've also worked with people who are just simply not willing to change.
Oh yeah, I've done that as well.
and I've walked away from them.
Yeah, you should. You have to. I mean, at least this podcast here wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have the same mindset. I mean, like there were certain points in our lives when we worked together in Finland, and we saw that you can't be at your comfort zone. You can't stay there. You always have to keep on moving. Otherwise, life isn't then life just is plain simple and boring if you don't do it. If you don't stretch the balloon, as you Jim say. Or inflate the balloon.
Sometimes you read something and you think, God, I wish I'd written that. And there's one of those quotes that I think, God, I wish I'd written that. I didn't make the book because I didn't write it, which was learn to love the sound of your own feet walking away from that which doesn't serve you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's a really powerful, but that in itself is inspirational. So I can't use the quote, but what I can do is I can talk about how that makes me feel. And then I can build something around it that encapsulates that thought.
Exactly.
So and when you love who you are, you love more of what you do. Is something that springs to mind. So take that as an inspirational point.
Yeah, but actually, I'm actually doing the same with music as well. Like obviously there are certain styles or certain ways to do things, but you can't copy them. But you can be inspired by them and then do your own with it.
Well, let me flip it. What inspires you to musically?
Let him answer first.
Yeah, because he doesn't talk enough.
Yeah, I know. And I'm getting comfortable.
Recently, darker sounds and samples. If we are getting technical.
So you seem quite interested in that snippet I played you earlier, which we can't talk about the name of it or where it's from, because it hasn't been broadcast anywhere. But that was, so you seemed quite inspired by the dark shamanic drumming or the sound of the iron being struck.
Sure, I would agree with that. Yeah, I go for really dark sounds and really dark themes.
Why?
I don't know how to answer that. I've always been drawn to the dark, sort of. I mean, it probably comes from my complex post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. So, so yeah. I mean, my first earliest memory was from a funeral as a child. So yeah. I mean, I think it comes from there.
And what made you want to open up enough to explore that?
I don't think I've ever been afraid to explore it. I think it's my comfort zone in a way.
So it's in your comfort zone already?
Yeah. I mean, if I would make happy music, that would be a challenge.
So you said recently you felt inspired to be drawn to more the darker things. What about before that? What inspired you?
I wouldn't. Difficult to describe it. Sort of complex melancholy sounds, and not like generic. I feel sad, but a sad twinge or something in it. More emotional. But now it's like dark and aggressive.
Okay. Interesting. Dark and aggressive.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing a bit more.
Is at the dark side.
Yeah, but then again, my recent releases haven't been that dark and aggressive.
Do you think so?
I don't know.
Death Grips, do you know? Do you know Death Grips?
No.
Or like Suicide Boy?
No.
But you hear the names, so you get it. Where he's at the dark side, or in the dark side.
Yes.
It's really interesting to hear, like.
Okay, how about you?
Yeah, before we
psychoanalyze.
You need to change the battery on that camera, but I didn't know how to take it off the tripod because you placed it there.
Okay, I don't know either. Okay. I will do it.
Yeah, that's sadly we don't have a cameraman today, so we have to do everything by ourselves. But I hope that Jim doesn't care, so that is okay. So the question was.
What's motivating you or inspiring you?
What inspires me? Well, there are so many different criteria. But usually, people. That's the weird part about it. Usually, people behind music inspire me to make music. That's one of the reasons. The other reasons, the main source of inspiration comes from making music. When I do make music and I hit the right notes or I get the right melodies, it makes me feel good. And I like that. That's like a rush. I like creating. I don't like to wrap things up. I don't like to finish things in a way. It sounded wrong right now, but what I mean by that is I like creating. And after I created something, I mean like not technically, not like mixing or mastering, but just like laying down melodies and laying down ideas. I like that. But after that, it gets counterintuitive, or it gets I don't know. You, as a hobby musician, I can say that, right?
Yeah, totally.
You know that when you hear something repetitively for weeks, for months, it isn't the same as it was when you were creating it.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've had it with your book as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope so, because it's what creators all have to go through. So that's the part I don't like about it. That's what I meant before. It's like finishing things. I like to finish things. They give me momentum later on, but the process, the last 15% is always an annoying part. But coming back to the other side of creating, it's just the feelings that music creates in me, that inspires me. People behind music inspire me. You inspire me. You inspire me. This conversation inspires me. It might be sometimes that if I get a good feeling out of a conversation, I might go to the studio and start just doing something. Or when I'm sad, I take that emotion with me. I translate it through my fingers into the keys, and then see what's happening. I like that. Maybe that's an answer. I hope it is.
I can relate.
Me too.
Yeah. So, but let's go back to you. I really love this conversation, and I hope you do as well, so that we can go this way, because we really like this is the proper way of doing a podcast.
Well, you can take it wherever you want, and I'll let you know if I don't want to go there.
Okay, that's good. So I just drift there for a second and then come back, because there's so much we can talk about this book. I feel like everything can be applied, like everything you write about in this particular book can be applied in everything, basically. Mm-hmm. That's why it's inspiring, but that's why you can take it and read it and feel inspired. So I would like to ask you about you being an actor as well, kindish.
Can we call it hobby acting?
Hobby acting, yeah, of course.
Same as hobby musician.
Yeah, we can call that a hobby. You've been in many different Estonian movies.
Nope.
Yes.
2.
Nope, 2. I've thought 4.
4?
Yeah, at least that's what your IMDb page says.
Yeah, 2 haven't been released yet. So we did recording for 1 which hasn't been released, and we did recording for another which at least my part hasn't started yet.
Okay, fair. So yeah, that's so we can mention those ones that are released.
Yeah, sure.
So which one then? Because I did all of them.
I was an extra with some face acting in O2.
Yeah.
You know, the spy, the espionage thriller about the start of World War II in Estonia.
Yeah. That was Dawn of War. No.
Dawn of War.
Dawn
of
War. Yeah.
But in Estonia, it was all gogs.
Yeah.
And so I was just in a couple of scenes of that, but it was huge fun making it. I mean, like 2 days filming for a 5-second scene, but I was a British ambassador to Estonia from 1939.
Lovely. So I'm asking you because we made a short movie ourselves.
You did. I loved it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Really, it was a pain in us to do, the 4 of us. 2 that were experienced, me and Freddie, and Hans and Mike were assisting everywhere they could. Mm-hmm. So it was a real experience doing this with proper educated actors from actually enlightening. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, what I was thinking about was that how is it possible for a foreigner or even a native to get these kind of gigs as you did?
Oh, pure luck. The other one, which I actually did have a speaking part in, was filmed here in Pärnu. It was in Estonian. It's kuues saladus, which in English is the sixth salad.
Secret.
The sixth secret. Yeah. Sixth salad. Yeah, that was purely by accident.
Okay.
I was contacted by this guy who wrote to me saying, your name's been given to me as someone who likes films, do you act? And I went, well, occasionally, yes. He says, right, I've got a movie coming up. Did you fancy a part? I was like, yeah, okay, what do I have to do? He said, send me a little recording of you doing this, whatever. And I said, any particular mode? And he said, no, just be yourself. So I recorded this clip and sent it to him. I thought nothing of it. And then a few days later, I said to my friend, yeah, do you know this guy, Mart Sander? I was absolutely clueless. I had no idea. And they were like, oh my God, Mart Sander. Yeah. And he said, they said, yeah. I said, well, he asked me to send him a record. I completely just forgot all about it. And a month later, he says, right, filming starting. Are you available on blah, blah, blah? And he invited me down to do a small part in a film, filmed mostly at Armand de Villa, just down the road from here. I loved it. It was great. It was working with professional actors, working with a professional director, working with a professional cameraman. My God, the end product, the visuals are stunning. I mean, the thing is a comedy horror, but the visuals are stunning. The sound, the vision, the production, everything was professional. I really enjoyed it, but I got that purely by luck, or did I get it by some kind of subconscious manifestation? We can argue all day until the cows come home on that one, but as far as I'm concerned, it was a stroke of luck. I mean, you register with an agency. Sometimes the agency will invite you to audition for parts, or they'll say there's extras here. I mean, I think half of Estonia was an extra in Tenet, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I missed that one. But sometimes you'll audition for an actual proper part, and it tends to be the professional actors that get it, and that's okay because that's what they do for a living. And I consider myself more of a hobby actor. But I have done a recent one with someone else who was on. She was the female lead in The Sixth Secret, and she and her Swedish film director husband have put together a bit of a sci-fi alien thriller thing, which we filmed out in Rummu Quarry.
No.
So that's a bit.
I saw a few pictures behind the scene.
That's pictures. Right. I posted some on my Facebook profile. Yeah. So that's going to be released soon. I'm looking forward to that one because it's like it's a proper role, and I had to remember quite a few lines, and I had to really say, oh God, can I actually act? I don't know. I don't think I can. I don't consider myself an actor, but before I did that, I didn't consider myself an author. So maybe I've just got to swallow it and say, yes, I am an actor, even if I'm only a little one. But it's another ambition achieved. When I was young, I had this dream of being in a band. Did I ever release a single? No, but I've written some songs which I'm credited for an album. I get royalties for them. I always wanted to write a book. I've written a book. I'm getting royalties for it. I always wanted to be in a film. I've been in a film. So I can tick.
Yeah,
I'm not looking at red carpets or awards or anything like that. I'll never get to that level. But do I want to? No, that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, talking about ticks, are there some that are like unmarked yet?
Oh,
that you're happy to
uncheck boxes.
Yeah. Talk about. I would love to know that.
Well, I always wanted to go to Tibet.
Where?
Tibet.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay.
Tibet.
You're so wrong. Okay. Okay, fair. Something else?
Japan. Japan.
Went there. I would love to.
I would love to go to Japan. I really want to go to.
A childhood dream of mine.
Same. But I mean, I studied Reiki for a few years, and recently became a Reiki master. And I want to go to the place in Japan where the style of Reiki that I was trained in originated from. So that's like a personal pilgrimage.
Yeah.
That's something that's on my bucket list that I haven't checked off yet.
Immense, really.
So I'd love to go there. But it's interesting. Most of my unchecked boxes seem to revolve around traveling to places.
Yeah, it seems so. Yeah. It's interesting because I was thinking to myself that maybe another ambitious project. Obviously, there are some, but you're not going to talk about them yet because they are still being made.
Yeah, I think some of the unchecked boxes are still in creation.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what they are, but there's a couple anyway.
Yeah, but talking, we spoke about acting. Let's talk about voice acting. I googled you for a second and just wanted to see what is there around to find about you, and it clearly says you're a breakthrough coach, actor, voiceover artist, and a writer. So voiceovers. What kind of voiceovers have you done?
I did a voiceover as the main narrator and the main character for a book called The Moose and the Birds, which is a children's story.
It's an Estonian one.
It's in English.
Yeah.
But it was written by an Estonian,
yeah.
And it's on general release. So that was as a narrator.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to create. Well, actually, what he wanted was my natural voice for the book, just slowed down a bit and a little bit deeper. So he wanted this almost BBC sounding voice. The moose and the birds were watching as the sun rose one day. That kind of voice that he wanted. But for the moose, I had to develop a character. And I thought, what does a moose look like? So you go into the moose is kind of like sitting there. So that's how I got him to speak. I said, well, birds, you have a very interesting mindset. Yeah, I had to come up with a little character like that.
How did you come up with it? Like, did you have many different styles before that, or it just came to you and you committed to it?
Just pick the one that feels right for the character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a similar one with another Estonian project called Mortalis Back to the Roots. That's mortalisgames.com, quick advert. So that's an Estonian MMORPG game that's in development, and they're starting with the book. The TV series, and the book itself has an interesting approach where they're taking the perspective from the main male lead and the main female lead. So another actress friend of mine who's actually on the same film here, Siret Tula, is the voice of the character Keo, and I'm the voice. So she's narrating from that perspective, and I'm narrating from the male character's perspective. But there are so many characters in the book, I had to remember, so which character has which accent. So I apply various different vocalizations to the characters. And it's something I really enjoy doing.
So if you would have to choose between acting or voiceovering, or how do you call it?
I'm more comfortable off the camera.
Yeah, so you would continue doing voiceovers.
I'd love to do as many voiceovers as I can be given. I would also happily consider doing things so long as it interests me, so long as it inspires me. I don't want to be one of those actors that will take on a project for the sake of taking it on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how I work. It's the same with clients. I'd rather take on a coaching client with someone I'm interested in working with, rather than just doing a gig for the sake of doing the gig.
Yeah, that's true. I completely get that. I mean, sadly, there are so many people who are doing gigs because they have to.
That is unfortunate, and I don't necessarily. I mean, I really want to give everything I do. I've always wanted to give my best. Whatever it is, whatever the project is. If it moves me, I can give more. So that's the space I like working in. So if this person moves me, I can work with him or her or them, then I would love to. And I know that I'm going to learn from it, because whatever I do, I'm always seeking to learn. And whatever I do, I'm always seeking to be inspired so I can become a better person or become a wiser person, so that I can put that knowledge into the next project.
Well said. Made us speechless. No, it was actually really good. I mean, it's with you, it's always you can go everywhere, and me with my ADHD, it's just that there are so many places where to go, and then you're searching, like you're locked somewhere, and then you find another thing, and then but obviously, yeah, I shouldn't be so aware of my process of thinking. I should just go.
Sometimes, man, just let go and see where creativity takes you. I love doing that as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
I love sometimes just letting go and see. Like I like writing. I also write poetry, and sometimes I just do freeform. So I think of a subject and freeform. I think of a subject and just do automatic writing.
Interesting. Do you? Okay, that's an interesting question. I think. Are you more of a typewriter guy when you write, or are you using a PC or a pen?
Oh, you should see my handwriting these days. It's shocking. I used to have lovely handwriting, but the older I get, the worse it gets. Partly because of my vision, but mainly because I'm lazy.
So yeah, what do you prefer?
Laptop. Yeah, laptop all the way.
Okay, the guy with whom we did our movie, he uses a laptop as well, but he has configured his PC that his like typing sounds like a typewriter.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, it inspires him.
Well, I've got a nice little machine here, which I waited years for it to come out. It's because Mac changed their keyboards between 2008. Between 2009, I think it was, they introduced 2012. Anyway, whenever it was, they introduced a new type of keyboard, and I hated it. I literally couldn't type with it.
Like a click in it.
It was horrible.
Okay.
But years ago, there's quite a nice soft feel. It felt very natural. And they went to this really horrible keyboard. I think they called it a butterfly keyboard.
Okay.
I think so. But I was waiting until they went back to a much more easy keyboard to write with, because when I write, I don't want to be slowed down by keys that I can't use.
Yeah.
So now that I've got this lovely one, we've got the proper keyboard back. So I just
actually the reason why I asked that is just because I know writers can be picky as well. Like, so there are certain criteria that have to be met. Like, because other friend of mine uses one of those keyboards that imitates the typewriter. Like they have this click on them, like. And they really, I don't know. Like
I tried with a typewriter.
Yeah,
can't get on with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the guys I'm talking about are younger. They didn't have those typewriters. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I say you're older, I don't mean that in a bad way. But what I mean is that obviously, like you grew up with those. Like in a way, like
I grew up in an analog age.
Yeah, exactly. So they were everywhere. So I mean, for you, it might be a relief that they are gone.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why my generation, X generation, is called the last negotiation generation, is because we grew up on the cusp of the digital age. So as the analog age was shifting to the digital age. Yeah, so like Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he drops a lot of references into his work about getting annoyance with automation for the sake of automation, or digitalization for the sake of it. Like he tells jokes about digital watches, and I notice now that digital watches are coming back in vogue. I see guys walking around with watches that look like they're from 1980, 1981.
Casios, I like them as well. I have them.
The same thing's happening with phones.
Oh yeah, because there's flip phones as well. I mean, even flip phones are coming back as well. Like,
well, that's a gimmick, but
yeah, but still.
But these flip phones are still smartphones.
Yeah, that's true. Right? I know. Dumb phones are back.
Dumb phones are back in. You know.
I know.
Phones that only send SMSs and make phone calls. You remember those days? I do.
Yeah, I do as well. I had a Motorola, blue one with the antenna.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I remember the Nokia 6620. I think it was.
The brick. It's a fucking brick.
The Nokia also did one in Sweden that was called the Shark, because I had a shark fin type shape aerial. It was a block of plastic, and it was loved by the builders because you could drop this thing and drive a Suzuki Jeep over it and it would be fine. I remember selling one for about 5 times the price I paid for it, purely because it was so in demand. But dumb phones are becoming more popular now.
Yeah, because in general, I mean, like people are more aware of their like digital traces or like footsteps. Like they try to like kind of hide it in a way.
Bad news for you guys. It's too late. They've already got you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but as I don't know,
the AI is learning from this.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully, some good things. I hope at least. So,
this I'm going to bring it back close to home for you, Helder.
Yeah, do it.
The cusp between the analog and the digital age. Think about the transition from monologue synthesizers to polyphonic ones.
Yeah,
or monophonic to polyphonic.
Yeah, I mean the Prophet 5, the Dave Smith with Prophet, when he started using microchips on synthesizers, and no one even thought about it at first. He was the first. Like, obviously there were polyphonic synthesizers previously, but not in the mass markets like this. He was the guy. I mean, it's interesting to think about this, how it evolved, and I mean, nowadays it can't be without it. And talking about things to be afraid of, I mean, we weren't even born at that time when cars were invented, and people were afraid of those. Like, do you know the stories about like when cars were invented and people were used to horses? Yes. And usually always change, even with AI, as you told. People are afraid of it. When the web came, people were afraid of that as well.
People were afraid when steam locomotives were invented that they would go so fast that people's hearts would stop.
Yeah,
that was a genuine concern.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Oh, this train goes more than 20 miles per hour. Our hearts will stop.
Yeah, yeah. But that's exactly what you're talking about in your book as well. It's just that, like, I mean, come on, what is there to be afraid of? In a way,
it's a great quote from Eleanor Roosevelt.
I don't know.
Oh no, it's not. It was a husband, actually. I think it was a husband who said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself."
Yeah, that's true.
She said, "No one can humiliate you without your permission." That was the one.
Jesus, you're like a quote book.
Just a walking. Yeah, I'm great on quiz teams.
So, but as it is common with us, usually when we get to the end of the podcast, it's not really the end, but
we're going to talk about music again.
No, we're going to talk about usually what we ask our guest is there something we didn't talk about and you would like to talk? We would love to hear some point of views or something that you would love to share with us.
Why are Estonians usually so shy and quiet?
Conditioning,
right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been conditioned this way since we were like kids.
I don't know, I would say
I mean, in the wider society scheme of things, because Estonians usually are shy and quiet.
No, I am not shy and quiet. I'm pretty loud, and I'm not.
I mean,
typical Estonian.
Yeah, I'm generalizations.
Sorry. Yeah, but what I mean, like, from my point of view, it's like where it comes off. Like, for me, it was like this: that it came from being afraid to be wrong, or like if you open up your mouth and you say something that's wrong or not, the facts weren't checked before you started talking, and then someone would notice. That fear, that's one of those.
That's interesting you say that, because there is one culture I've lived in, which I won't name, where there's this kind of, you get this blankness, and I used to be thinking, it's okay, it just means they're thinking, and then it turns out they weren't. But what I have noticed here is that although generally speaking you guys seem like maybe quiet, shy, standoffish, or even cold, really? You're not. I love how much is being listened to. So I usually get a lot of feedback, but once the fear of speaking has been overcome.
Mm-hmm. Actually, a good question. How do you overcome the fear of speaking with Estonians? What is your move?
What's my move?
Yeah.
Questions are good.
Yeah.
If you can ask the right open question. So, I mean, okay, so for example, the real question I probably wanted to ask was, how would you respond to an outsider saying to you, do you know what? You're not as cold and as reserved as you might think you are. What do you think of that?
How would I act or react to it?
Yeah.
I would say it's probably true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How?
How it's true.
Yeah, we're listening.
I think the stereotype holds water, but knowing Estonian people, or by living here, I know it's not the case, and it's changing. I think it's more the case in Pärnu, because in Tallinn you can have a conversation with your cashier, maybe the person who waits your table, but not in Pärnu so much, at least when I was growing up. So I yeah. Does that answer your question?
That's interesting, really interesting, because
from your perspective, yes.
Yeah, because it's really interesting because we come from a completely different perspective. Like for me, I would say it's I understand the point of view where you said that in Tallinn it's easier, obviously, because it's the main.
I mean, like growing up.
Yeah.
Rather.
Yeah.
In Pärnu, it's different now too.
Yeah.
So
but me,
it's like changing over time.
Yeah. But I would say the whole, like the Estonians themselves, even when I'm talking in Estonian with Estonians or potential clients with, or just acquaintances or whoever, as when they are Estonians, it's. You need to have an opener, or you need to have something that opens them up, and then usually for me it's like being sincere, and when I see that they are reflecting that, then it's easy. Then the wall or facade is gone.
What I like to do is to try and get people to speak about what they know about.
Okay.
So if I can catch someone on their without wishing to be too clinical about the language, but this is a shortcut. If I can tap into their subject matter expertise, and it's a topic that I'm interested or curious about. With you, it's music, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know about your musical taste. So I might say to you, "All right, I really like what you do, or I like what you say." So this dark material. Hey, have you heard of Heilung? And maybe we can establish a connection on that, or I can ask you what your influences are. When we were just jamming over there, and you were saying, "Hey man, that sounds like Tangerine Dream," and I'm like, "I grew up with Tangerine Dream." So if I can tap into what someone really is good with, then that encourages them to open up, and it gives me a learning opportunity. Hey, everyone wins.
Yeah, that's true. That's really good. Now, I mean, that's I think that's a good segue to our sponsor. No,
I think maybe Estonians often lack the conversational initiative. Maybe they're not shy or reserved, but they don't initiate conversations.
I do all the time.
But still I know
problems.
You're not the Estonians, you're Kelder. One
do
of
you
the
think, okay, I would love to, like, this is like personal things. I would love to do this. I would like to, like, everyone, all the viewers here, they are definitely interested in this. Is that you as a foreigner, like, how would you describe me as, like, in a ratio of like 1 to 10? How Estonian am I?
Oh Christ, you're atypically. I mean, okay, yeah, you look it, you sound it, but you know, in terms of the experience I've had, you're much more open.
Okay, fair.
From the off, but you're no less open than most of the Estonians I've met once they open up.
Yeah.
I remember reading a really good piece by an Estonian anthropologist who brought up this metaphor that the British and the Americans are like peaches. You know, we're soft and juicy on the outside, but we've got a heart of fucking stone.
Avocado.
Avocados. Well, she used peaches because peaches, like, you know, they're
sweeter,
ripe for about half a second. And you're never there when it happens. You know? But she flipped that by saying Estonians are like coconuts. They're really hard exterior until you get into the middle and it's sweet and juicy. And that has been by and large my experience. But yeah, we hit it off straight away. But because we had a very powerful and a very personal motivation to do so.
True.
So that we could instantly relate to each other. It's a lot harder. So I don't know you, Hans, but I know that we have a common interest in music, but I don't know what that common interest is yet. So I'd have to work a little bit harder to open this guy up.
Yeah. Took me.
You've spoken more in this podcast than anyone I've seen before. So
you heard that.
But those ones I led as a host?
No. Not necessarily. I haven't seen all of them, but the ones I've seen.
That was a good one. I mean, I'm going to use that one.
There was another thing we were talking about on the way over here today, which is a very recent article in ERR about how Estonians are starting to embrace the art of small talk. And now I will make a direct comparison between Estonians and Swedes. I lived in Sweden for 8 years. I speak Swedish fluently, and the Swedish word for small talk is småprat, which literally translates to small talk. And they're not very good at it. But I noticed that Estonians, generally speaking, aren't either. But the article said that this is changing now.
Interesting. Yeah. I would love to know how Estonians small talk.
It's fascinating because the article said, and you can Google this yourselves. Google it, ERR, Estonian small talk.
Yeah, you send it to me.
Very recent article, and it said in there that one of the methods or one of the means by or the subjects through which Estonians are becoming better at small talk is talking about the weather, and that that made me fall out my chair because that's the stereotype about the bloody British. Yeah, because all we do is talk about the weather.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yes, you do. I didn't even think that talking about the weather could be considered being small talk. I mean, this is nothing.
We use it as a conversation opener.
Yeah, but come on, that's like nothing.
Then I take it to stratospheric level because I'm also a qualified meteorologist. My first career was the weather. So when people talk to me about the weather, I'm like, oh shit, where's the line? Where do I stop? Okay, so I can explain to you how the process of how snow is created. Did you really want to talk about the weather? So then I got to struggle as where do I start?
Oh, that's interesting. So you do have some sort of inside voice inside you where you struggle, how much should I give and how much should I
constantly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's the inner voice.
Yeah, was that a problem writing this book as well?
Yeah. One of the loudest voices was, why are you writing on this topic? You don't know enough about it. And I even had that voice during this podcast that says, stop talking about this subject, you're not qualified.
But when are you qualified?
I guess maybe when there's, from my point of view, when there's enough feedback coming in that the opinion that I offer or the advice that I give works, it bears fruit, the other person benefits from it.
Yeah. But it's paradoxical in that sense that it can't work if you don't give it.
Well, then that's about taking the risk.
Yeah.
So there's no try, there's only do.
Yeah, exactly.
I talk about doing. There's a phrase I learned when I moved here, which was only doing gets it done. Oh God, I wish I could write a book. Well, it'll only happen if you do it. But I wish I could release an album. It'll only happen if you do it. God, I wish I was better talking to girls. It would only happen if you do it. Exactly. Learn a bit how, learn some skills, try them, then get better at it. Yeah, learn from that, then get better at it. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe for Estonians, let's talk about women in general. It's really, it's really hard. For the country is so small and the population is so small that if you try a few times here and there and it didn't turn out well and you try again, there might be a huge chance that the others with whom you try it again know already that you've tried it many times previously.
Everybody can change. Everyone can change.
Yeah, I believe that. It was just more like a blow to him. Personally, and I wanted to know your opinion about it. Yeah, so let it be. I'm getting really comfortable. This is interesting. It took me 1 hour and 43 minutes, and now I'm really comfortable.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's our friendship. When I'm getting too comfortable, then it might be really bad.
He's just teasing me. I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I would love to talk to you about a lot of these topics more. Dive deep into them. I think we can't do that with this podcast, sadly. It's really, really inspiring to talk to you. You're an inspiring person. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you writing this book. Even the struggles you've had with this book are inspiring. And I definitely will take some of this inspiration with me and apply it to my things that I do.
Well, there's one thing I've learned over the last few years is that adversity can be a very powerful teacher. When we have the will to overcome, we can overcome many, many, many things. We are stronger than we think we are often. So I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the fact that you've invited me to do a podcast. Firstly, I'm nervous about, and secondly, to do it in a room with someone I don't know. You know, there's a connection here. I've never met this guy, Hans. I've really enjoyed it. It's been
me too. I have enjoyed it.
It's been rewarding. Work with people who enrich you.
True.
So I found it enriching.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I have that sentence as well in a different perspective. It's like embrace yourself with people that are 2 steps ahead of you. In a way, that's like a thing that is deeply coded inside me. So yeah, Hans, do you have any words? Do you want to end this podcast with a lovely...
I don't have any words.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Everything's been invented, so...
No, please, end this with a decent conversation.
Jesus Christ. I mean, there's something I would have liked to ask you.
Ask then.
Okay.
Now seems to be a good time.
How do you deal with writer's block?
I don't have
I actually write about it. I actually write about how to deal with writer's block.
This is interesting.
If I can remember which one it's in, that would be good. Can we do some clever editing, or shall I try and find it? The best thing to do when you're blocked is nothing. Literally nothing.
Okay.
Just be. And then do something else, distract yourself. Someone might say, well, yeah, meditation works for me. Then that's okay, fine, do that. Go and do that if that works for you. Sometimes I like to do walking meditation. I'll go for a walk in Kelder Park and there's a circle up at the top part of the park. Just go in circles. Just look at the trees, just be in nature, just completely forget about it. And then go back to it. Sometimes it might be walk the dog, do the dishes, vacuum the house, watch some TV, just step out the office, have a conversation with someone. Literally do nothing, just put it out of your head.
Yeah. And
then come back to it. And the way that's actually often helped me. And then I come back to it, I reopen my laptop and I'm like, right, what was I wanted to write about? Oh yeah, I was going to write about relationships. And then boom, the copy comes to me. Because I'm not one of those people that believes that inspiration comes to you like this. Sometimes you have to work for it. And sometimes doing nothing is the thing that works. Because then it does come because you've given yourself space. And It could be a very subconscious thing to do. It can be working on very the esoteric level of doing nothing is something. But that's how it's worked for me.
I agree, but then again, there are artists who struggle with it for long periods of time, even for years. And a part of me thinks that it's not writer's block; it's something psychological.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another thing I say in coaching often: sometimes the issue isn't the issue. So sometimes people think the issue is writer's block. It's not. There's probably going to be a very fundamental psychological block. A barrier and that could be I can't write about this anymore because I don't believe I deserve to, and that could be going back to a wound or a trauma from the past that hasn't been cleaned out. So the issue isn't the writer's block. The issue is insert condition or situation or event or wound here.
Do you have I don't know how much have you dealt with writer's block with other people, but what are the common causes, psychological, when it goes on for long? What are the psychological backgrounds or traumas or What are like the most common?
The most common ones. I find are about a lack of self-worth, or somewhere in their past there has been a voice that says, "You're not this," or "You're not that," or a judgmental voice. And sometimes, so when I've gone through, when I do psychosynthesis leadership coaching styles, I look at subpersonalities, and I go in to see what are the kind of voices. I don't mean the voices in your head. Let's not go down the dangerous stereotypical road, but there are commentaries within our own heads. Sometimes they're the voices of ourselves. Sometimes it's the voice of our parent. Sometimes it's the voice of a teacher. Sometimes it's the voice of a bully that we had at school. Sometimes those voices. So I tap into what's that voice? Where is it coming from? What's it saying to you? What's its personality type? How do you respond to it? And then I dig deep into that, and then we start to strip it out. And so what would you like to say back to that voice? The voice that's telling you you can't do this, the voice that's telling you you're not good enough. And we go through this kind of real-time conversation with that subpersonality.
Okay, but sometimes we set the standards really high for ourselves. Do you think it comes from a lack of self-worth too? Is it like we attack our low self-worth with high standards and then confuse everything and make it more difficult?
I think I'm sensing what you mean by that is that we sometimes sabotage our own creative processes by deliberately setting a standard higher than the one that we know we can achieve in order to beat ourselves up afterwards. Well, that's a sabotaging technique. Mm-hmm. It's like, my standard. I write about high standards, actually. Say about setting your standards high, and not necessarily judging yourself by them. But what I believe you're talking about there is setting your standards too high, specifically because and that gives you a get out. Yeah. So the real question is why? What's going on there? Second book, by the way, is going to be called Because Starts With Why. So I'm going to play on this starts with theme. So that is like, why are you setting your standards that high? What is the motivation between sabotaging your own success? And I'm sensing there's something very specific behind your question.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking at him.
This isn't. No, the answer isn't. The answer isn't lower your standards.
Yeah, I know.
I actually know Hans quite well, and I get where it all might come from.
No.
I get it.
I'm dealing with the same thing as myself,
Yeah.
but we are on like different levels. I think my writer's block partly comes from like setting my standards too high and then procrastinating in some ways. I think I'm like self-sabotaging, and I'm working towards the root of it, but it's difficult.
Okay, so maybe one question to ask yourself is, what am I afraid of? Because quite often people are afraid of their own success. Mm. And there's a chapter in the book about regrets and what ifs. And what if the only what if we ever have left is, what if I regret nothing? Mm-hmm. So what if I can? What if I succeed? What then? And often people have a fear that if they succeed in their goal, then there'll be a void in their life. Oh, I've achieved that. Oh shit, I've got nothing else to aim for. Yes, you do, if you open yourself up to it. So that could be one thing. And by the look on your face, I don't think that's it. So there's something else going on.
It's a part of it. If I lose the thing I'm struggling with, I feel empty. Kind of, in a subconscious way. I'm not afraid of it, but if a project has been finished, there's a certain feeling of emptiness.
Interesting.
There's a technique of project management called dragon dreaming. And if you Google Thomas Trapido and dragon dreaming, he's from the Gaia, he's part of the Gaia Foundation. He's one of the guys that I greatly admire in this country. He used to be a Green MP, and he now runs a place in Vöremark called, or he and his wife, Kaira Hund. They have a place called the Hundeilika Keskus. He does a lot of work with dragon dreaming. He's doing one this autumn actually, and one of the fundamentals of dragon dreaming is celebration. And one of my fundamentals in my work is celebrate every single thing you do, even if you don't think it's a success. Celebrate it because you did it.
Wow.
So when you achieve the project, and when the project's finished and you got the end product, the empty space that you perceive is exactly the space that you should be filling with celebration.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Well,
he said the same thing.
Yeah. I would just say this. Add this to this. That. When do we get a hard copy?
$12.99 on Amazon.
Hopefully not for us.
Give me a signed album, I'll give you a signed copy.
I will.
There you go.
It's a deal. So yeah, thank you, Jim. Really, it was a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Hans, as well. Thank you both.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye.